Hey guys, Chris Algieri here. I am going to show you today how to make White Castle slider burgers in your own kitchen. We all love fast food, not always the healthiest option, so we're going to put a healthy twist on some of your favorite fast food items. Today we're going to do White Castle sliders. So first thing, whenever you're preparing a meal that you want to do is to set out your ingredients, set out the tools that you're going to need. Right from the top, we've got some organic grass-fed ground beef. I chose 85% lean to 15% fat to make it a little bit leaner. Because of the way we're going to cook this, it's going to be very juicy anyway, so it doesn't have to be the fattiest ground beef, like an 80-20, which is normally what burgers are. We're going to need slider buns, of course, because we need those small little sliders. We're going to have some butter, because that's going to help us cook the white onion, because the way that White Castle burgers are cooked to be so juicy is that they're actually steamed on a bed of onion. So we're going to use that. We're going to dice it up. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to have a little pickle, top it, need salt to activate that meat, and then a cutting board and a knife. Okay, so since the onions are such a major part of the cooking process of a White Castle burger, because that's actually what's going to be on the actual grill surface, and the burger is going to be on top, I figured I'd show you the easiest and safest way to actually chop an onion. So I took this onion, I cut it in half, cut it into pieces, took out the outer skin, and then notice I cut the one side off, but I left the stem here because this is actually going to hold it all together really good while you're cutting it. So what you want to do is, I'm going to take a nice sharp knife. Be careful, knife skills are important. Okay, I'm going to cut down the seams of the onion. Careful not to hit that stem part. So, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna splay it out a little bit. And from there, I'm gonna cut into the onion this way, and this way. Okay, be careful doing this one because you're cutting towards your hands. Okay, this is gonna kind of dice it for you, pretty much. I already see pieces coming out. And then from here, I'm just gonna, and very important how you hold. I forgot this from the top. You want to use your fingernails. A lot of times you see chefs, they'll use their fingers. The reason for that is your fingertip is not going to be where the blade is. If I bend, I have my knuckle to protect my fingertip from the blade. So I want to use my fingernails to grab the top of the onion here, and then I'm just going to cut right down the length of it. Okay, we've been cross-sectioning these cuts, so you should get a nice, even chop for these onions. And now pretty much that's it. That half onion is ready to rock. We got all this nice onion. We're going to lay this on the bottom of the pan. We're going to cook it in butter, soften it up a little bit, and then we're going to place the patties, which I've already patted on the side, right on top. And when it comes to pattying the burgers, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, White Castles are always square and they have holes in them. You can do that if you want to get fancy. I don't. I usually just put them on top of the onions and I cover them, but we'll get to that next. Okay, now on to the actual cooking portion of this. So I'm going to turn on the stovetop on my iron skillet here, medium-high heat. Let that heat up. Got my butter. I'm going to add that because that's the cooking fat that we're going to use to cook and soften up the onions. And then I have my patties ready over here. I patted them out in advance, small little burger size. They're not perfectly square, they're not perfectly round, doesn't really matter. I didn't put the holes in them either, but because I'm gonna show you a little trick that you don't have to do that. The reason they put the holes in them because they steam the burger. They put the burger on top of the onions for speed. They want it to be just fast food, so they want to produce a ton of burgers really quick. So they normally do 16 burgers for 1 pound. And they put them on the onions. They let this onion steam through the burger. That way they don't have to actually flip it. Okay, they put the holes in the middle so the steam would go through the holes, and they put the bun on top, which traps that steam and cooks the other side. So White Castle burgers are actually not flipped. They just put them right on top of the onions, then they put the bun on top of that and cook it that way. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. I'm not putting the holes. I'm not gonna do the bun right away on top. I will finish it off on that. But I covered the pan itself with a lid. So that traps it so you can steam the whole thing. It's kind of like a convection oven. So letting that butter melt and come to temperature. Okay, our butter's melted. It's nice and hot now. I hear it kind of sparking up a little bit. Got our freshly chopped onions. We're gonna put that right in there. We really want to coat the whole bottom of the pan. Like I said, the reason for that is the burgers are going to go on top of the onions and get steamed through. Also, we're going to put the onions on the burger themselves, so you're going to get all that good juice from the burgers in these onions. We don't want to waste them. No food waste. I have a nice bit of onions here. Cover that up, let it steam up, let those cook a little bit. They get a little soft, a little translucent, and then it's time to throw the burgers on top. They cook very quick because the patties are very small, so make sure you keep an eye on it. But I want to get the onions going a little bit before I add the burgers themselves. So our onions are just about ready. You can test it by putting your hand over it. It's getting pretty hot. You can feel the moisture and the steam coming off that. Turn it up a little bit. And then we're just going to add the patties themselves on top of the onions. And we're going to allow all that flavor and juice from the onions and the moisture to make sure that these patties stay nice and moist, nice and tender. Got a nice big pan so I can fit a whole bunch of these on there. Not going to be able to get all of them, but do our best. Nice. And then, just so you guys can see, you can see it pretty good. You can see a little closer. Okay, we've got the burgers on top of the onions cooking. I'm gonna cover that now, so it'll trap that heat and that steam. I'll cook those a little faster. Oh, before I do that, I forgot to season the meat. So the only seasoning this needs is a little bit of salt. You can salt them before, when you patty them, but I like to do it when they're on top of the onions because that salt will be in the onions as well. We're gonna let that cook for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then again, instead of flipping them, we're gonna put the buns on top, let that cook for another 1 or 2 minutes, and then we're gonna use the spatula, pick it up with the onions on the burger, on top of the bottom side of the bun, and then we're gonna top with a pickle, and another top of the bun. Super easy, very few ingredients, anybody can do it. We made it a little healthier because we used a little bit leaner beef. We used 85% lean beef rather than 80-20. And the reason that we can do that is because we're using the steaming method, so it's gonna still keep the burger moist and juicy. And when it comes to toppings, you can always add whatever you want, whether it be cheese, avocado, tomatoes, lettuce. It's not traditionally like a White Castle burger. A White Castle burger is generally just onions, beef, and a pickle. But you can do it any way you want. That's the beauty of doing it at home. Okay, it's been about 4 or 5 minutes. Burgers are cooking nicely. Now, I'm not gonna flip them. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the bottom part of the bun. Okay, so we got the bottom part of the buns, and we're gonna place them right on top of the burgers. Of the sliders, I should say. Okay, and that's gonna help trap some of that heat, so it's gonna cook that other side without flipping it, as well as imparting a lot of flavor on the bun itself. It smells amazing. It smells amazing. Let that cook for another minute or two, And then we're just gonna use the spatula. We're gonna get underneath the onions, got the meat and the patty and the bun rather. Flip it over, pickle on top, burger top on the slider bun on top of that. Good to go. All right, so we're about ready to plate these guys. So I'm gonna reach under them to get some of those onions, top of the bun. Get a little messy, that's all right. Something you can also do is you can always double up the patties too, right? Because they do that, they do double. And that's it. Super simple, super easy, super tasty. We've got our White Castle slider burgers. Super easy to do. Really excited about this. Give it a shot, guys. Let me see what you got. Super juicy.